know what the Bible says
About
homosexuality.
what does it say?
Nah.
That's what it says.
Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm a traditional Catholic.
What do you mean?
Big gay people are scary to me. When I'm like standing by myself and 3 gay dudes are next to me touching my leg, I get scared.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. If that's homophobic, then I'm that.
Yeah.
Shy is so real.
I mean, impeccable logic and truth right there, honestly.
Listen, okay, so we have a bunch of clips of the Shia interview that we're going to do on Locals tonight. It's too vulgar to do on YouTube. Like, we were going to do that tonight, and it's just too many F words and stuff. So, like, I don't know. Sometimes people watch this show, and, you know, they kind of can count on us for not being vulgar. But Locals is a different story. You know, if you're paying for Locals, you catch a bad word or two over there. Rob drops the N word on a might have happened. Might have. It's just a rumor.
What happens on Local stays on Local.
Yes, that's so true. So true.
You know, like telling everyone weeks ahead of time that Father Ripperger was going to be on Sean Ryan.
The funniest thing is we gave Ocean a freaking free Locals membership. He's 17 years old, and he's in the chat before the show even starts, and he's making fun of things I say, and he's got me down to a T. It made me so mad in the green room.
None of us realized he was a minor, so we had to kick him out of the telegrams.
He goes, I just see this all coming to a head. I don't know, man. I really do say that all the time. I'm the worst. I hate the people that watch this show. They will never, ever let anything slip by. Before we even get started, though, and this isn't even a promo, our friend Paul Pereira, who everybody pretty much knows, he's always in the chat. He's a Locals member. He's in the Telegram.
He showed up my kid's baptism.
Yeah, we met Paul in person when I went to Minnesota. Paul's wife is pregnant, and they basically diagnosed the baby where they're going to lose the baby. And they're asking everybody to just pray that the baby lives long enough that they could get him baptized, him or her. I don't know if it's a boy or a girl. But if you guys can, everybody just say a prayer. He's praying that the baby lives long. Like it's basically like it's far enough along where they're pretty sure that's going to be the outcome. He's not even asking for like a miraculous recovery or anything. He's just praying that the baby lives long enough that the baby will be able to get baptized. So if you guys can, let's, please say a prayer for Paul Pereira and his wife. I guess while we're doing that, we'll just do our ads, right? We may as well just do some house cleaning.
Yeah.
We still have knickknacks, knickknack.com. Knickknacks.
I still use them every day.
I do too. Nicotine lozenges. I used them when I was snowboarding. They were great. Nicotine lozenges. They are not a smoking cessation device. Although if you want to quit smoking, just saying. They also contain nicotine, and nicotine is an addictive product.
And if you accidentally chew it like a mint, like you're not thinking, you chew it all at once, you only get a little bit woozy, like a little bit nauseous. It's not
I take a half, dude. I'll be honest. I break them in half.
I know, but like if you ever accidentally put it in your mouth and without thinking, like chewed it.
Yeah, I don't get woozy from them.
It's a little bit much when you take it all at
once. My wife saw that Knickknack is advertising with Joel Webbin. She goes, "Those traitors! I can't believe they're advertising with that Protestant traitor."
We're gonna have to ask Father Ripperger about what's it called?
No, we want
remote material cooperation with evil. Huh?
We want Knickknacks to go big. We don't care. I had Joel on our show, so how could we knock him? But knickknacks.com. Use code AB 25% for 25% off your first order. They're hoping you're addicted by then and we're willing to pay full price after that. They are that good. So if you haven't tried them yet, go to knickknack.com. Use code AB25% for 25% off. And our other sponsor is shoplobster.com. And shoplobster.com is amazing because they overnighted my lobster on the last show we did. They overnighted it. All right, so we did the show Tuesday night, and I'm like, they didn't send me my lobster. I wanted to bring it up with me because we went away to Lake Placid for 4 days, and I'm like, we're going to be up there for a Friday, and what are we going to eat up there? Because I don't know if my in-laws don't have meat on Fridays and stuff. And they overnighted it. I wanted to leave at 1:00. The package showed up at my house at 12:45 p.m. 15 minutes before I wanted to leave. I texted Rob. I'm like, I got my lobster. I'm getting on the road. This is amazing. I had the tracking number. I was watching the UPS guy around the block. I couldn't wait. But shoplobster.com. They are awesome. Use code AB10 for 10% off.
Hold on. I bet I can get the photo you sent me of the lobster that you made.
Let me just tell you, man. You know what it is? If you look up this YouTube videos on how to butterfly lobster, and it like I learned how to butterfly lobster tails, and just do it in your oven with broiling them, and they come out phenomenal. So it was very good. We are very happy with them. It is Lent. You cannot have meat on Fridays. This is a good workaround. A lot of protein in lobster, and everybody's saying that it's fancy food, but I mean, it's an insect. I'm having shrimp tomorrow. Lobster. What are you gonna do? Sea bugs. So shoplobster.com, code AB10 for 10% off. Yeah, I know you guys hate when I talk about this topic.
Oh no, I'm out of
it. But how do we not talk about this topic?
What topic? Which one?
Everything happening. Come on. Like everything happening. Are you still confident that this Iran war is going to remain a small little skirmish in Iran?
Just define confident.
I mean, when I said I was worried about the Iran war, I wasn't worried about direct conflict with Iran. I was more worried about it escalating into a wider war. That was always my worry. I said I'm not worried about like Iran. I'm worried about it escalating into a wider conflict. And the things I'm watching right now seem very much like this is going to escalate into a wider conflict.
I mean,
I'm watching wrong stuff though, so I don't know.
We've already seen, Iran's response has been largely to shoot missiles at every state in the region. We know the whole Afghan-Pakistan thing is probably tied into Iran right now. Israel has sent troops into southern Lebanon, but they haven't yet passed the area that they've gone into a few times recently. So, yeah. Obviously it already is a little bit bigger than just Iran, but so far it's nothing out of what anyone would have expected.
Well, what I think what's surprising people is the way Iran works. They thought they were going to take out their leadership and maybe they could get a regime change. And Iran's system is set up very differently there. So they basically
since the 80s,
yeah, they basically had it so that if you wipe out the leadership, all these individual provinces basically are autonomous.
Every local military commander. Right, is semi-autonomous and
semi-autonomous, and they're just operating on their own. They all know the plan, and it's kind of crazy that we didn't, or maybe we did know this was going to happen. I don't know, but what it looks like they're doing is trying to disrupt the world economy in the places that they're striking. It's not just American air bases and stuff. It's like they're hitting things that will probably disrupt oil distribution, things like that. You're going to see a spike in oil prices. You're going to see they're looking to disrupt the world economy. And
what's funny, kind of, is you're right. Yeah, they're hitting every major oil field in that they can, shutting them down. And the gas prices had their largest single day jump since 2005, is the national average of a 12-cent jump today. But hitting the oil economy like that is actually going to hurt like their supposed ally China way more than us, and them being taken out of play and Venezuela being taken out of play has already hit China. And this is in the middle
which could force China's hand, though.
Well, except President Xi or whatever you want, Xi over there, has decimated their military leadership over the last year in purges. There was some talk that he was doing it because there was some talk of a coup among the Chinese military who are no longer happy with his president for life gig. So he's decimated their military leadership. So right now the thinking is that China's in like no position to push anything right now, but who knows? A lot of times when you're at your lowest is when you're the most dangerous. So
here's my worry. That it will escalate into a wider conflict because Israel wants it to escalate into a wider conflict. Like Israel seems to want hegemony over the Middle East.
Yeah.
And that includes us. They don't want us there anymore. So like getting us to strike Iran is kind of like a two-pronged thing. It's going to get us to exhaust our resources, and it's going to put us in a situation, especially if it's a prolonged war.
Well,
it's going to put us in a bad situation.
Israel is also exhausting their resources.
Yeah,
to the point where their interceptors, the missiles they use to intercept the incoming Iranian missiles. I mean, they were running low after the little 12-day war in 2025, to the point where at the end of that war, Iranian missiles were starting to hit.
Yeah,
they're I think they said at that time, the world supply of what we call our THAAD interceptors, Israel used 25% of the world supply then.
Yeah.
So I mean,
and they take a year to make. Like they're not like these quick things you could just ramp up production and get them going real quick. Like they're going to take months to make.
Our highest level interceptors, yeah, but we have mid-level interceptors that supposedly we can produce 25,000 of in a year.
Okay.
And that are actually cheaper than the Iranian ballistic missiles. So it's hard.
Now Iran is also blowing off all their old crap right now, getting us to use up those interceptors, and they haven't even started using their good stuff yet. And that's kind of been their plan all along, is let's get them to deplete their stuff with our garbage.
That's what they're saying, and that would make sense. But we don't. It's hard to say. Do they really have a bunch of their newest ones left? Who knows?
Yeah, the thing with war is you don't know what information to trust.
Yep.
You don't know what to trust because everybody's got a bias and everybody wants their side to come through. So you're getting information from all these different sources. And it's like I was hearing that Iran's got these missiles that they go in, and once they get over Israeli airspace, Israel send up an interceptor, and then the thing breaks into like 5 different missiles and it'll come down. So some of them are going to hit. Like they may intercept 1 or 2, but out of the 5, 3 of them are going to hit. They also have what are they called? The hypersonic missiles now that go like Mach 5. They're coming in at 11,000 miles an hour. So
5,000 or 6,000 miles an hour.
Oh, whatever.
But
I think I did see like a video that said they come in at Mach 10 or Mach 11 or something.
I don't know if Iran has any of those, but China and Russia
definitely do. Yeah.
Have at least some. Yeah.
Kale saying Obama gave those to them. I watched Kale and Skojek's new. Kale and Steve Skojek are doing a podcast now called Monitoring the Situation. I'm really enjoying it. I think it's really good. But Steve sucks on Israel, dude. He's really good on like the AI stuff. He's really good on like he's really good on some stuff, but his takes on Israel are so bad. Like so bad. I just can't. And I'm not even like a conspiracy guy with Israel. I'm more of a looking at the biblical story guy when it comes to looking at Israel. And like it's just so blatantly obvious that we were dragged into this war by Israel. I mean,
Rubio said it.
Like Rubio literally said, and it's like Steve's like
today the reporter a reporter at a press conference today said, yesterday you said this, and Rubio goes, no, I didn't. Were you there? And the guy goes, yeah, I'm the one who asked you the question.
he's basically like, well, Israel was going to strike Iran, and we knew if they struck Iran would have struck back at our bases. So preemptively, we jumped in. So look, there's an element where I do think America got involved to restrain Israel a bit. Because it was like, if they went in it alone, here's the thing. Because part of me is like the best case scenario that could happen here is like if Israel was just decimated. But
I mean,
that's a horrible situation because Israel will literally nuke the Middle East if they think they're under that kind of threat.
Plus, say what you want about Israel and or Jews and whatnot, but like the vast majority of Israeli citizens are innocent of all this, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like you can't You can't say I want your country decimated. I want your
No, I meant
You
I
know?
mean their military capabilities and stuff.
I
but,
know
like,
what you mean.
yeah, I'm not wishing for death on anybody. I really
Right.
think the whole thing is atrocious, but man, I don't know. You just see the way they behave, and it just seems like they are looking to, like, all the things you've been telling me about this stuff. Like, we've been talking about, like, the multipolar world that's coming up, and you were the one that made me start thinking about, like, well, Israel kind of is a superpower now. And they're trying to position themselves as a superpower, and they want hegemony in that region over there. They want the promise that Abraham was given.
Yeah.
They want the promise that Abraham was given. And that promise, I mean, if you listen to the Tucker interview with Mike Huckabee, he's like, well, that technically, I mean, when you hear the chants from the river to the sea, that's actually an Israeli chant. It's actually an Israeli chant from the river to the sea because they want that area.
Yeah. Red Sea, Jordan River. Yeah. All of that.
Because that's the land that was promised to Abraham. So they kind of twisted it on you, and they make it sound like it's the Palestinians that chanted, and that's wicked. But really, it's a Jewish chant they want from the river to the sea, and I don't see them stopping until they have that. I mean, I think this whole incursion on Iran, and as soon as they took out Iran, you're already seeing the former prime minister of Israel talking about, oh, Turkey's the next target. Turkey's the next target. It's like,
yeah, that would trigger Article 5 of NATO.
I mean, wasn't the island of is it Crete? Cyprus was hit, right? Cyprus was like Iran bombed Cyprus, and they're technically a UN country.
So
they're technically part of NATO. I mean, it hasn't triggered anything yet, but you see, like, France is starting to talk about them building their nuclear arsenal.
Poland today announced that they were going to start investigating how to attain nuclear weapons.
Yeah,
it's because now everyone is waking up to the fact that to be an actual, like, autonomous sovereign state in the world now, you need nuclear weapons. Yeah. Otherwise, you are truly just a puppet state of another state with nuclear weapons. You know, I wouldn't call Israel a superpower, but they are one of the few sovereign states in the world because they do have nuclear.
They have nukes. Yeah, the whole reason you don't want Iran to get nukes is because then all of a sudden Iran is actually sovereign, and you can't actually go and do something like this because they could threaten nuclear war.
Yeah, like one of the worst things we ever let happen was Pakistan and India getting nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
Now they only ever have them facing at each other, but still, it's like.
It's still changing the whole dynamic of everything. I don't know, man. And the other thing that really makes, I know people don't like when I say this, but I don't think Trump's leaving, dude. I think everybody thinks it's like, what do they have on Trump? Are they is it the Epstein stuff? Are they blackmailing him? Is it Miriam Adelson and her money? And I'm like, no, I think he wants a third term, and I think that he thinks that's his ticket to a third term, whether it's through a legitimate election or by starting a conflict so big that he could go, I'm suspending elections or something. Like, I really do see Trump acting like a Roman emperor. He's building a freaking triumph arch in Washington. The things he's doing, he's behaving as if he's not leaving. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying I don't know what's going to happen.
I was going to say,
I
don't know how it could be achieved. You know, it certainly can't be achieved constitutionally.
No, I think
I don't personally care anymore about necessarily.
That's kind of the point, right? Like, so we're looking at the end of the Republic and the Empire beginning.
Well, the Republic's been dead since 1860.
I know, but what I'm you know what I mean, though, right? Like, like the facade of the Republic, and we're entering Empire phase, and everything
like the Roman Empire was really dead for 150 years before Caesar. You know, and you had all the struggles therein. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, it just seems like, and the thing is, like, instead of focusing our attention on us to fix things at home, this all kind of just started in my head when I saw Doge uncovered all this crap, And Trump acted like he was going to do something about it, and then he did nothing about it. Like they passed a budget after all this fraud and the NGOs was discovered, and the next budget comes along, and they should have struck all that stuff from the budget, and Trump went, nope, put it right through, and he pressured everyone. What he did to Thomas Massey, because he was against it. Anybody who spoke out against it, Trump came down on, and they passed that budget, and they shifted a lot of that NGO money right to the State Department. The State Department just shifted it to different NGOs, and the same crap is still happening. Those NGOs, all they are is CIA operations to overturn governments that don't do what we want. Like that's actually that's all they are. And yeah,
I mean, it kind of makes sense, like in a sense. The NGOs and intergovernmental organizations and all that, like that was part of the liberal international order that was created after World War II. But like your intelligence organs, like the CIA and whatnot, their job is always to promote, the
U.S.
cause
policy.
So their job, whether it's legal, constitutional, whatnot, is to bend your liberal non-governmental organizations to the purposes of the American government.
Use the NGOs as a way to do off-books operations, like stuff the person can't be seen to do.
Right.
They're like, let's just go have USAID do it. USAID go do it. I mean, it's still like an outcrop of the CIA and stuff. And like you and I talked about this, where it's like there are different factions within the intelligence agency. It's not like it's one unified intelligence agency. So you do have the Trump faction fighting against the Obama faction, essentially. Like Obama's faction framed Trump, right? Like they literally framed Trump and went through the whole Russiagate nonsense and probably stole the 2020 election. I mean, that was that apparatus against what we see getting put into place right now.
There's some Bull Moose says there's something to be said about how it is legitimately easier for Trump to topple governments than it is for him to get the Senate to do something. Adds to the Romanness of the situation.
I think so.
It's so comparable to Caesar. It was easier for him to go and conquer Gaul than it was for the Roman Senate to get anything done.
Dude, it's crazy like that. And what we saw happen with Venezuela, like boosted Trump's ego. He's like, oh, look, I can just go and do this, And I think he thought he was going to do the same thing in Iran. Like his you're talking about a guy who's being told from him, man, you look what you did in Venezuela. Look how flawless that operation was. You just went in and took out Maduro. It's like, oh, we're just going to go in and we're just going to go take out Khomeini. It's like, they did it.
They did.
I know. Yeah.
The problem is Iran's been preparing it for 40 years, ever since the Iran-Iraq war in the 1980s. They've been in this constant flux of war. Venezuela wasn't ready for that. You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden they wake up and their president's in an American jail and they're like, oh no.
Well, so what Kale and Steve were talking about is how even when we took out Khomeini, it was like he was being guarded by Chinese equipment. And when we went in and took him out, we basically showed the Chinese, like, your equipment isn't going to stand up to us. Like, we're going to decimate you.
I mean, right now it's in an act of war, it's hard to know exactly where we stand with what's happened so far in Iran. But so far, so 6 Americans are dead. We know that. There's probably more
that they've said.
But up to this point, right now, we currently have B-52 bombers originally made in the 1950s, just flying figure eights over Iran, attacking whatever they can find. So that means we've decimated Iran's air force. We've decimated their ground to air, their surface to air missiles, the air defense. So literally all they have left is obviously their ground forces, which are under now constant bombardment from the air, and their ground, their surface to surface missiles, which they're obviously using to effect, of course. But at this point, if we had constant munitions, there'd be nothing to stop us from just doing it.
Yeah, it's just the fact that we probably have to be cautious that we don't burn out too quickly.
Right. We have to make sure we have munitions left in case China decides to get smart or something like that.
Yeah, it's similar to like what we were doing in Ukraine was trying to get Russia to burn up all their stuff. You know, it was like, let's just put Russia to the brink and make them expend all their munitions, everything. So if we do catch a conflict with them, they're already worn out from this war, and it might be easier for us.
And it sounds like Russia, they sound open to, if we make some guarantees on behalf of Ukraine, it sounds like they're willing to come to the table now.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because I thought even with Ukraine, part of what I was like thinking was just maybe they were doing that to see what the new battleground even looks like, right? Like we've been in the mountains of Afghanistan for 20 years, and it's like, what the hell does a war with Russia look like? We better start something small and have a proxy war so we actually understand the technology we're up against, what we're going to have to do to win this one. So it's like, we'll burn Ukrainians. So I mean, it's so evil, but like we'll burn Ukraine's men and fight a proxy war to kind of get a better idea of what kind of military equipment we even need for this next phase that we're coming up on.
Well, it's like, so, you know, Ukraine starts in 2022, and the drones come out of nowhere on both sides. No one was ready for it. You know, you have M1 Abrams tanks getting taken out by, you know, $1,000 drones out of nowhere, and like that was just unthinkable. But now, you know, at the end of or beginning of 2026 here, remember when that airport down in the south, I forget which airport it was closed?
In Mexico? Like just in Mexico? Or are you talking about?
No, I forget if it was, the chat will remind me what airport it was down in the southwest. Where
America?
The government closed it. Santa Fe. Yeah, the government said it could be closed for up to 3 days, but a few hours later it opened. What it was is there was drones coming in across the border from Mexico, and the military base that was there wanted to close the airport so they could use their anti-drone technology to take out the drones. And it's now it's some, you know, sort of electronic anti-drone warfare technology that didn't exist 3 or 4 years ago that now we're using to take out Mexican, you know, cartel drones. So
wow. I never even heard that story. That's
El Paso. Wild. Okay, it was El Paso, not Santa Fe.
Yeah, either way. I mean, yeah, it's just, man, the way things are escalating, though, it just seems like the whole world is preparing for war, including us. Like the whole thing with Venezuela, talking about Greenland, all this stuff. We're preparing for something. And then now this thing in Iran kicks off, and it seems like Israel wants to be in charge of the river to the sea.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to happen with Europe? Like, I don't even know what's going to happen with Europe, because it seems like, especially like you see Trump even saying, like, talking about Spain today. Like, if you knew what was going on in Spain with their elections and stuff, like they're legalizing 500,000 Muslim immigrants to try
their
and
socialist government.
Yeah, to rig the elections there. They're telling X, we're going to fine you personally. You're going to fine Elon Musk personally if he doesn't fight hate speech. And all of that is to control speech, and all of that is to control elections. And it's all because it's going to be used against the United States if there is another election and Trump loses or something. Like in the next election, you won't be able to see, like, X will have to monitor everything if Elon doesn't want to get sued. There's so much crazy stuff happening. Like where that liberal world order that was under Obama, that was very intertwined with Europe, like very intertwined with Europe. There was coordination between our deep state and Europe's deep state. And they had all these intertwined agencies that were working together. And now it's just like, they are losing their minds because Trump won, and they're scrambling to try to come up with a game plan. So it just seems like everything is getting more intense.
I think we'll see NATO fall apart. And you'll see, so Britain could go one of two ways, right? It could completely fall to the Muslims, you know, to the Pakistanis and Indians and whatnot. But who knows, if the restore Britain thing works, they might actually become a solid ally again. But they have a lot of work there to do, obviously, with their migrant problem. But you have nations like Poland, right, which has done a pretty good job avoiding migrants. Now talking about wanting to attain nuclear weapons. Obviously nuclear weapons are inherently immoral from a Catholic perspective, but from like a global politics realist sort of perspective, I could see a block of countries between America, Poland, maybe Britain, if depending what happens there, but like Hungary, maybe, some of the Central and Eastern European nations still being kind of allies with America.
Neutral or
Italy under Maloney is doing well.
yeah.
I think NATO as an organization falls apart, but I still think you'd have probably a core of European nations.
Yeah, for sure.
America.
Especially the big ones. Like,
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've said it before. We're just entering if this isn't the end, right?
yeah,
We're entering a sort of realpolitik sort of world order again.
yeah. It's well, first off, like Bobby just texted me, and he's right 100%. Like the move on Venezuela and the move on Iran are the same move.
Yes.
It's about China and their oil. Like China was getting Venezuela's oil, they're also getting Iran's oil. So it is the same. It's moving chess pieces on the board, locking up the same thing. It's just, and it's funny because you're watching people. Like I tried watching Eric Sammons today. It's like, dude, I'll listen to Dave Smith if I want to hear your libertarian take, dude. Like, what are you talking about, man? It's just like he's talking about forever wars and he's talking about blowback, and it's like, yeah, whatever. That's not the real issue here. It's just, I'm like, yeah, those things are sure, they're issues, but it's not what this thing is about. This thing is something much bigger, and it's
yeah. As Adrian and I were talking about last night on Guns and Rosaries, between Venezuela and Iran, those two nations account for 20% of China's oil, and it is by far the cheapest 20%, right? Because they were able to buy it at huge discounts because they were the only ones willing to buy it because of
they were being
sanctions.
sanctioned by us,
right? So now 20% of their oil availability is just plain gone. The other 80%, not only do they not get a discount on, well, boy, now it's getting jacked up way higher.
Yeah.
Right. So that's going to cause problems in China. Like I said earlier, you have the military purges that their military has gone through. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work out, but
yeah, I don't either. Like I said, I worry that it's going to escalate into a major conflict because I feel like Israel will keep pushing for that because it's what they did in World War II also. And that's, I mean, look, I'm not defending the guy in any way whatsoever, but if you listen to Mustache Man's speeches, his whole point was they're pushing, the bankers and all these guys are pushing for war. I don't want war, but they're pushing for war. And if they do this, I'm going to take them out. Like that's literally what he's saying. Right. And go ahead.
He didn't want war with Britain.
Yeah.
Or France even. Right. But he did want
war with Russia.
Yes. 100%.
He did want war with Russia. He wanted to fight the communists.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there was all these things being interplayed in the background. And it seems like that's kind of what's happening now. And I'm not, whatever.
I think the area that this war is most likely to escalate in is, you're right, is Israel will push for maybe taking more of Lebanon, maybe all of Lebanon. Do they then go further into Syria? I don't know. What about
what does
Jordan?
Take it mean? Does it mean just stick in a puppet government, right? Does it mean like they have a puppet government in Syria, but that puppet government in Syria is literally murdering Christians?
That puppet government in Syria is ISIS.
Is ISIS that we created?
The leader was ISIS.
ISIS, and then they changed their name to like the Freedom Council or something. And they're like, "Yep, you're the leader. It's fine." But all these guys, like, you got to be insane for that guy to even take that spot. It's like, the CIA does this thing. They create ISIS to go and fight someone, and then they turn on them. They put a puppet leader in. They put a puppet leader in, and when that puppet leader acts up and doesn't do exactly what they want, they go and kill you. Like, you're just setting yourself up to get killed.
Hamas was created and funded by Israel to oppose the Palestinian, Liberation Front.
And now they're dealing with that. And
Right.
we create this thing, we teach them how to fight, we arm them, and then when they become a problem, we just go and wipe them out. But all of the puppet governments in the Middle East eventually get, like, we put these puppet governments in, and then we still take them out. Even if like Iran was willing to come to the negotiating table, they were like, yeah, look, we won't even have these sunrise clauses on it. Like, we'll do whatever you want. All we're asking is like that we're allowed to have a national nuclear program for like nuclear energy or something. And it's like Iran wanted to negotiate, and Israel was like, don't let those negotiations ruin our war. Like Israel wanted this war.
Yeah.
Regardless, they wanted this war. So
that's, I don't think you can deny that in good faith at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then there is this crazy element that we're looking at, which is you're dealing with, I saw a story today come out that the US military, did I put that in there?
Yeah.
The US military one.
If you didn't, I have it bookmarked too.
Yeah. So
the Substack?
The Substack one.
Okay, let me pull it up here.
Oh, here it is. Yeah, I got it. Okay. So, U.S. troops were told Iran war is for Armageddon, return of Jesus. Advocacy groups report commanders giving similar messages at more than 30 installations in every branch of the military. The combat unit commander told non-commissioned officers at a briefing Monday that the Iran war is part of God's plan and that President Trump was anointed by Jesus to light the signal fire in Iran to cause Armageddon and mark his return to earth, according to the complaint by a non-commissioned officer. From Saturday morning through Monday night, more than 110 similar complaints about commanders in every branch of the military had been logged by the Military Religious Freedom Foundation. The complaints came from more than 40 different units spread across at least 30 military installations, MRFF told me Monday night. They're keeping the complaints anonymous to prevent retribution by the Defense Department. The Pentagon did not immediately respond to my request for comment. One complainant identified themselves as an NCO in a unit currently outside the Iran combat zone, but in ready support status, deployable at any time. The NCO said they were Christian and emailed the MRFF on behalf of 15 troops, including at least 11 Christians, one Muslim, and one Jew. The thing is, I know you guys could get annoyed with some of the things I talk about on this show, but like this stuff is psychotic. Like you're talking about it, play Pastor Greg Laurie's video, Rob. Not John Hagee, Pastor Greg Laurie. I put that one in, right?
Let me look. Not John Hagee.
No, the other one.
Is it the one you called Psychotic Theology?
Yes, Psychotic Theology. Play that guy. Dude, this is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane.
Before I play this, I would just caution. It's hard to say whether that info about commanders supposedly saying that stuff is fully accurate. Like, I don't know that organization. Yeah. It could be a very leftist organization that just wants to,
well, okay. So even if that's not actually being told to our military, though,
right?
It's still something you see pastors going out and talking about. You say, like, this is a very real thing, right? So even when Netanyahu goes and bombs Iran, what does he do? Now, Netanyahu is a freaking atheist. The guy is not actually a religious Jew in any way whatsoever. And what does he do? On Saturday, we read from the Torah about the Amalekites, and we told to destroy the Amalekites. And it's like, these guys he knows what he's doing. He's building Messianic fervor amongst the Jews. Because like when I talk to Gideon Lazar, I speak with him privately about this stuff, and he's like, Anthony, I'm telling you, there is Messianic fervor in Israel right now. Like, they all think this is it. Like, this is it. And so everything you're seeing, even if Netanyahu isn't a religious guy, like, what he's doing is playing into this mindset, because he knows the fanatics are going to love it.
But even there,
I'm sorry.
even their Messianic fervor isn't religious in the sense we would think about it.
No, it's not.
Like when like the evangelical Messianic fervor is thinking of the second coming and the end of the world.
Right.
The Jews, that's not what Messianic fervor is to them.
Yeah, not at all. It's like, man, I don't know if Christians really understand this. Like for the Jews, the Messiah is not God come to earth. It's not God incarnate in any sense of the word. It is just
it's a new Davidic king.
It's just they just need a descendant of David to take the reins as they're on their empire build. That's all they need. Right. So like during the time of Christ, they're all expecting a Messiah. Like
Kale meant to say Barabbas, but yeah, Barabbas
100% Barabbas style messianism, right? Look, this is why in Dune, Paul in Dune, what's it
Atreides?
Paul Atreides, like the Lisan al-Gaib, right?
Yeah,
like
that
he
is
an antichrist. He is an antichrist, right? Like he comes in and they're building, like that's the Jewish Messiah. If you really understand that movie is about the Jewish Messiah, man. Yeah. He comes in and he whips up Messianic fervor and he's like, I will take you to paradise. That's what this is, man. That's what this is for them. For us, like the Messiah is God incarnate. He is the Logos. He is, it's such a different thing. Where these crazy Christian Zionists, like what you're going to hear Pastor Laurie talk about right now, is like these people think the wars that we're creating are a good thing because that will cause the rapture of the church. It's like, and I was arguing with somebody on Twitter about this today because they're like, humans can't bring about the Antichrist. It's like, no, like humans literally are going to bring about the Antichrist. Like this is how God works. Like humans do this stuff. Right. People like God's not going to come and like, no, it's going to be us. First off,
the Antichrist isn't like the son of the devil and incarnated like you see Constantine or movies like that. No.
He's just some guy they're going to put on the throne. That's it. They're going to call him their Davidic king. And they're gonna be whipped into Messianic fervor, and like the whole thing comes down to when you go through the Old Testament, you have to understand that you're talking about a people who for 6,000 years have been promised that they are going to rule all the nations and crush them like a potter's clay. They will rule them with an iron rod. Now, we as Christians understand this prophecy is meant for Christ. And Christ, today I have begotten you. You are my only son. I will draw my people to Zion. You will rule the nations with an iron rod. But that iron rod is the cross, and we all come on our knees.
Mm-hmm.
When I am lifted up, I will draw all men to me. Like it is a kingdom not of this world. And they're waiting for something, but like their carnal reading of the scriptures is so dangerous. And look, I work in Jewish neighborhoods in the city. I'm telling you, when something happens to a people, when they're told for 6,000 years that they are God's chosen people, but they're waiting for that promise to come true. And it has not come true, and especially for the last 2,000 years. Last 2,000 years, they've been dispersed amongst the nations. And this is what we're dealing with right now. They have their own homeland for the first time in 2,000 years. How can there not be Messianic fervor? They want their borders to be wider than it was under the Davidic kingdom. Yeah. Because the Davidic kingdom did not stretch from the river to the sea. They want the promise given to Abraham that you will be the father of all nations. But they don't see it as the way we did as Christians, where we're all brought in through a covenant. They see it as it's their covenant and they rule over the nations. And that's what we're looking at. So listen to Pastor Greg Laurie.
We know that Persia, modern Iran, plays a role in the end time scenario because the Bible does say a large force to the north of Israel will march on her, known as Magog, and one of her allies will be Persia. Where does this fit in? I don't know. We'll see. It'll all play out in God's perfect timing. But I can say this. When we see this kind of activity in that part of the world, it reminds me of the words of Jesus, who said, when you see these things begin to happen, look up because your redemption is drawing near. As far as I can see, the next event on the prophetic calendar will be the rapture of the church. That's
like this is why this is so psychotic. These people, they think they're not going to have to live through the tribulation. They don't understand the battle of Armageddon is not going to be over in Israel and we're all fine over here. It kind of, Rob, I actually did want to talk about your tweet. I said I want to talk about this a little bit. The cross will conquer the crescent moon alongside the star of Griffin. Because I agree with you, obviously. But where we are in church history, and where we are in the story, it's not going to happen the way it was in the Crusades, man.
No, not necessarily.
The cross is going to conquer the crescent and the star of Raphin through the blood of the martyrs.
Yeah,
that's actually how this is going to go. So it's like I understand this, and
that is what I meant by it.
Yeah, it's going to be like we are looking at persecution on the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's and all of us need to be prepared for that, and not this religious liberty. Oh, they're making Catholics pay for birth control persecution. I mean, real persecution. Like that's what's coming, and it's going to come because Christ told us that would. Like we have to be, if we're in those times. Obviously, we don't know, but
even if we're just approaching like the minor tribulation or chastisement.
Yeah, chastisement's coming. Something's coming. So no matter what, whether the thing is, these people are right in one aspect that they see that this stuff does need to happen, but the idea that they could bring it about is so insane.
They think they're going to avoid it, not realizing they will actually be the ones persecuting the Church of Christ,
and they will fall for the Antichrist. Like they will absolutely fall for the Antichrist, especially because they think Trump has been chosen by God to deliver this. Like this stuff is nuts, man. Go to the other pastor.
Okay, give me a second.
The other pastor is even crazier. I don't know if you guys saw this guy.
Let me find.
But like when you go to Apocalypse 17, even like, hang on, let me pull it up. Apocalypse 17. I think it's in verse 6. So it's like, all right. So the woman, all right. So, and he carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, which was full of blasphemous names, and it had 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet and bedecked with gold and jewels and pearls, holding in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the impurities of her fornication. And on her forehead was written a name of mystery, Babylon the Great, mother of harlots and of earth's abominations. And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. When I saw her, I marveled greatly. This is a description of Israel mixing with the former nations of Christianity, the former nations of Christendom, drunk on the blood of the martyrs, and the kings of the earth who were formerly of Christendom drinking her blasphemous. Like, man, I cannot unsee the image when I see the way Israel is involved in the goings on of the American government, the new Rome. Like, because this beast, this mystery Babylon, is basically the return of Babylon.
End of the pagan religions. Like the mystery Babylon is the mystery religions of Babylon.
But it's the Babylonian Empire, which then returns in the Roman Empire. So when John is talking about it, John's describing it in the Apocalypse. He's seeing Babylon returns in Rome. So he's like, the beast that was, is not, and will be. That's what Joshua Charles we always talked about with the binding and the loosing of Satan, right? So this period after Christ's ascension, the beast that was, is not, and the demons are bound. Now they're able to manipulate on a personal level here and there, but for the most part, the demons are bound under the abyss, and God's spirit covers the earth, and all the nations are gathered in, and they come to Zion. But Zion is spiritual Zion.
Rome. Rome is the new Zion.
Rome becomes, the Roman Empire transforms. So like, we're going to do that because I don't want to blow the Peugeot clip I have because he gets into that. But so it's the demons are bound, but then they're unleashed at the end of time for a period in order for these things to play out. And it's like, I don't know, man, how could that not be what's happening right now? You see everything that's happening in the church too. It's just,
especially when you hear people like Father Ripper or exorcists say that prior to the 60s, exorcisms were a pretty quick deal, right? The store, the treasury of grace that the church had access to was so abundant that exorcisms were quick and fairly easy. But
yeah,
after the 60s, after Vatican II, after the Pope lays down his tiara, it's like that the catacomb was gone. The demons were no longer restrained, and now exorcism takes literally 1, 2, 3 years.
Yeah, it's like repeated sessions have to go on over and over. Something I thought of the other day. I don't know if you're gonna like this insight, but the council and Nostra Aetate and the laying down of the papal tiara, it's basically the church telling us the time of the Gentiles is fulfilled. Like the church no longer goes out and has these missions, right? Like we're no longer converting the pagan nations. Think about, dude, throughout history, we went and we converted the pagan nations. None were allowed to exist.
Yeah.
Except the Jews. The Jews were the only ones we allowed to continue.
And they were allowed to kind of exist as a nation inside Christendom. They were not allowed to have their own state. But
but they were allowed to exist as a people. We let them worship their God. Like it was if you go to Augustine talks about how they're almost a witness people to the truth of Christianity. And that's why we kind of allow them. There's no other pagan nation that's allowed to exist except for them. Right. And what happens in Nostra Aetate is all of a sudden the church is like, the time of the Gentiles is fulfilled. We're no longer going to convert the pagans. So now all the pagans can come and we'll put, we'll say, we'll find the good things in your religion. Like we're done with missions. The Great Commission is over. And the church is telling us that in a really subtle way. If you have eyes to see, it's like the Holy Spirit is still protecting the church from teaching heresy, like blatant heresy. But in some way, that council, what it's doing is letting us all know the time of the Gentiles is fulfilled, and we're in something different now. The church, this crisis is unlike any other crisis.
Even the fact that the council declined to actually teach anything dogmatically. It's not the first time it's ever happened, but it's like one of 2 or maybe 3 times. But it's like you said, it's like the church was saying, we don't need to teach anything. We don't need to convert
even
anyone.
Leo the other day saying in this ecumenical meeting, he's like, it is not our job to build Christendom. Like I'm telling you, that it's like he's making a prophecy without knowing he's making a prophecy. It's kind of like when Caiaphas says it's better that one man die than a whole nation dies. It's like he's making a prophecy about Christ. Like he's unintentionally prophesying, and I think Leo is doing that when he says that. Like it's like the church is not about building Christendom anymore. That's why they came up with religious freedom. All this stuff, man. This is like, you guys. This stuff is. Somebody pointed out Anne Catherine Emmerich's vision, and she's seeing the church at the end times, and it's like the bishops are all like deformed and stuff because they're all so mired in filth in the end times. But there's a few that are still holy. But I said, but notice she doesn't say they're not bishops, right?
Yeah.
Like she doesn't say they're not bishops. They are bishops, but they're wicked men. And that's what we're dealing with, it's, and the church in some mystical way through the Holy Spirit, we're being told where we are. Like you have to read the signs of the times. The time of the Gentiles has been fulfilled, man. It's interesting. So, all right. So we can do the other pastor, which is kind of wild. Yeah. This guy's nuts.
God bless you, Mr. President, for being a friend of Israel.
That guy up front is like, what did I get myself into?
Well, understand this also. Like if you go to St. John Chrysostom, he says straight out, if you even have sympathy for their cause, you will be damned. If you even have sympathy for the cause of the Jews, you'll be damned. Like you'll get caught up in it, and you're seeing God bless you. Like, and remember that when the Pharisees crucified Christ, they thought they were doing God's will. Oh, he's a blasphemer. He's a false Christ. He's a false Messiah. He's not the one. And they thought they were doing God's will. The problem is their father was the devil, right? These people, this fervor they're whipped up in, their father is the devil. Like if you're getting caught up in this stuff and you think you're going to bring about this is the freaking crazy false messianism too, man. This stuff is nuts. But look, yeah, somebody's saying Pastor Hagee is cringe, but look at the size of the congregation cheering for this. Hit play. Let's finish this one out.
God bless you for having the courage to do what others feared to do. God bless our fighting forces in the Middle East in the brilliant execution. God bless our forces in the Middle East in the brilliant execution of Operation Epic Fury. Today we will discover in Bible prophecy that God has an Operation Fury. He has planned for Iran and Russia in the near future. Stay tuned in the television audience. Let's read Psalms 122, 6 through 9. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May they prosper who love you. Peace be within your walls, prosperity within your palaces. For the sake of my brethren and companions, I will now say peace be unto you. Because of the house of the Lord our God, I will seek your good. Can we pray together?
So you can turn it off, but this is what I mean. This is a carnal reading of the scriptures. These are all passages that are fulfilled in Christ.
Mm-hmm.
These are all passages that are fulfilled in Christ. And these people think that they're still waiting to be fulfilled now. They read the Old Testament like it's a separate book from the New Testament. And that Old Testament applies to Israel and the New Testament applies to the Christians. They see it as a dual covenant. Whether they admit that or not, they're all psychotic. They read the Old Testament as if those are the promises for the Jews. And it's like two different gods.
100%, yeah.
It's, what was that? Marcionism or something?
Marcionism, yeah.
Where
the Old Testament God is a
brutal
kind of evil demiurge.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like this stuff is pretty nuts. And then the last thing I want to do before we head out of here, Jonathan Peugeot talked about Israel. And he doesn't usually talk about it, but he was being interviewed by a guy, and a guy asked him about Israel, and Jonathan didn't even get into anything controversial, and you can see the guy got really uncomfortable. But I thought there was a couple of things in it that are interesting, that you could kind of see the dynamic that played out the first time that we could see are going to play out in the final time.
Definite article pass. They don't let me say the Jew. That's the line. Apparently you can't cross the definite article. But I'm obsessed with Jewish people. But it seems like the world is. The right is obsessed with Jewish people again. I'm like, what happened there? And the left is now obsessed with Jewish people. And everybody else isn't. I mean, I'm not obsessed with Albanians or Welsh people. There's 5 million Welsh people. They're in a small country. Like, they're pretty equivalent to Israel in many ways. I'm not constantly thinking about, why am I obsessed with Jews, Jonathan?
Daryl, if you're in RCIA, you have to be so cautious, man. You have to be so cautious in RCIA.
Yeah, man. You're going to be taught a lot of bad stuff.
So he wrote, Catholics have a problem with the Old Testament. Told at RCIA tonight that Adam and Eve were not married, despite that being clear in Genesis. And this came from the tutor. I'm telling you, when my wife went through RCIA, I had blowouts with the people teaching RCIA. You have to be so careful what parish you go to for RCIA. I mean, you seem like you have a pretty good grasp on the Catholic faith, and that's why you might be becoming Catholic, but Please don't be led astray by these lunatics that are, especially the women running the freaking RCIA.
And trust me, we know it's a woman running your RCIA.
Yeah, it sounds like a woman. So I mean, my wife's RCIA instructor tried telling us that the Catholic Church invented the priesthood in like the 600s. I was like, what?
After every RCIA session that I went to with my wife, we would have to set aside an hour afterward for me to go through everything and correct what they were teaching her. And that was before I was a trad, so I'm sure now I'd have to spend probably 2 hours after.
Yeah, Daryl, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to shoot me a DM or email us or something. If you hear something shady in there that you're not sure about, like there's easy ways to find sources that because you're going to hear some shady stuff. But all right, let's go back to Jonathan.
I have to admit, I didn't think we were going to go there, but I'm fine. I'll talk about anything.
Listen,
that's totally fine.
I'm already cancelled. There's nothing they can do. Mel Gibson.
Okay, so there is a very deep relationship in the West between Christians and Jews. It's there from the very beginning. The story of the relationship between Christians and Jews is the craziest story in the world. It's actually, people don't realize how crazy this relationship is. That is, think about it this way. I can tell it in 5 minutes and you'll see how crazy it is. So in Israel, during the time where the Romans have taken your nation, right? So the Romans are in charge. The Romans are brutally kind of holding down the Jewish nation. The Jewish nation are pretty rebellious. They're rowdy. They cause a lot of trouble. The Romans are annoyed with them. And so there's this massive tension. This Messiah appears. And he's kind of a rabble-rouser. He says wild things that the religious authorities don't like, but that they're also afraid of because they don't want the Romans to clamp down. So they kill him. And then people start to follow him, start to convert, and people outside start to convert, and they persecute those people. The Jewish authorities persecute those people that convert. And then the Romans start persecuting them. Who would have thought? The Romans accuse them of having burned down.
There's something he's leaving out there in that the Romans persecute them because the Jews are antagonizing the Romans.
Hey, these guys are cannibals.
the Romans, the Jews are egging the Romans on to persecute them. Like it's not just the firework, the Roman candle is they would take Christians and dump them in oil and put them up on posts and this was at the behest of the Jews of the time, and that's like what when you're reading about when you're reading in the Apocalypse, like in Apocalypse 3, where John's talking about the synagogue of Satan and he's talking about those who say they are Jews but are not. Like the main enmity is between Jews and Christians from the beginning. The first martyr is killed by the Jews. There's this enmity from the beginning that is there, and then the Romans start to persecute the Christians on behalf of the Jews, and then the Romans turn on the Jews. So go ahead, finish this thing out. No, it's not on. You don't have it on screen.
You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Persecute those people that convert. And then the Romans start persecuting them. Who would have thought? The Romans accuse them of having burned down part of Rome, and they start to massively persecute them. Then the Romans destroy Jerusalem, burn it down, the whole thing. No more temple, no more no more nothing. The biggest destruction that Israel has ever dealt with, since the exile of Babylon or whatever. And so you have this weird situation. And so so the Jews are spread out during the Roman Empire. The Christians are there. They're being persecuted. And then the weirdest thing in the world happens, which is the Romans start to follow that Messiah that they killed before the destruction of Jerusalem. And then everything flips. All of a sudden, those Christians that were persecuted for centuries are now in power. And they're the same power that destroyed the temple. Now think about that. That is wild. That is the wildest.
Replace Jews with Welsh, and I think it sounds even more wild. Like if you were to tell that story, and say, okay, there's this group of people called the Welsh, right? And they were occupied by the Romans. And then like God
no,
was
it's-
born into
no,
the Welsh.
you're-
So God was kind of
can't be
Welsh,
the
but then the
Welsh.
Welsh kind of killed God. So the Welsh are also responsible
This
for
guy's
that.
just so
And then
uncomfortable.
the
with
Welsh
the
had
stuff
like the
Jonathan's
money because they
saying.
weren't allowed to own land. Like that, you'd see how wild it was, right?
Yeah.
If you just used another.
You use different terms.
That's
So you now you have this weird relationship, which is that as the Christianity grows in the Roman Empire, they eliminate all the cults. So now there are no more of the pagan cults. No other religion is allowed in Europe except one, which is Judaism. Why? And so the Christians preserve the Jews in Europe. They let them exist as Jews, and they're the only ones. No one else is allowed to continue to exist. And it's a very weird, tenuous relationship. And so the Jews become the outsiders in
other,
with us,
right? The symbolic other.
Yeah, they become the official other. They become the remnant of an old world. They become like a residue of the old world that is still among us and is in some ways acts as a margin in every way. So the Jews act as margins in every single way. They have all of these kind of flexible positions. They don't own land. They have all of these roles that are really the role of the margin. And so when it goes well, it's beautiful and it's wonderful. Because you need that. You actually need
innovative scientists, comedians.
Yeah, you need otherness in you or else you become completely hermetic and you close off. So when it goes well, it's beautiful. And then when it doesn't go well, then it's kind of horrible. Because on the one hand, you have this problem, which is now you have someone with other intentions inside you. So you have people that have other allegiances that are part of you. And so when things start to go wrong, they're suspicious of them. And then sometimes maybe they also care more about themselves than you. And so that's a problem too. And so they have this problem that sets itself up. So we have a long story. I mean, it's like 1,500 years.
It's like this gets into like E. Michael Jones's Jewish revolutionary spirit stuff, right? The Christians do preserve the Jews as like a witness people to Christianity, but the Jews are not happy with their status ever, and that's why they get behind every revolution to try to undo Christianity, because they're like, we're claiming that the God of Abraham gave us the promises, and look at how prosperous we've been for 2,000 years. Like, the prosperity that God has blessed us with drives them insane. It's like it drives them insane when you see the fruits of Christendom. So they're always trying to undermine it. They're behind the Protestant Reformation. They're behind the Russian Revolution. They're behind every one of these major things because they reject Logos,
or at least involved in them, if not.
Yeah, but they're always egging them on. In other words, I'm not saying they cause them all, but they're always, they see tensions in Christendom. They're like, ooh, we could lead to an undoing of the thing that's been, and now we're in a situation where they do have their own homeland again, and they are trying to bring about these, like, and what's interesting is when you read about Christ's return, he's going to return through the western gate of where the temple was. It's going to be in Israel when he returns. It's like there's so many things that are set up right now that I don't think anybody's crazy for thinking, that something like that. Like, if you're reading the signs of the times, it does have that vibe. None of us know the day or the hour, and this has been going on for 50 years. So, it could be another 50 years. Let's pray for that. These people that are trying to bring it about are psychotic. We don't want it. Like, you don't want to bring about it. It's going to lead to tons of Christian the real Christians are going to suffer persecution through this period. It's going to be a rough period. So, what I've been hoping is that the theater of war is over there. Like right now, the theater of war is the Middle East. I hope it stays there. I hope if wider war breaks out, I hope it stays in Europe. I do think we're going to be dealing with our own problems at home. I think we're going to be dealing with civil war here at home. I think you're going to be dealing with Jews inflaming the tensions between Muslims and Christians in the U.S. It's shellfish. Can't be Jewish. What do you mean? It's not Jewish. It's shellfish. The Jews can't even eat lobster. What's wrong with you? You guys don't even know. Don't even know what you're saying. So, yeah. And one of my frustrations with all the Catholics talking about Zionism right now is none of them are discussing the implications of it. They all understand it's a heresy, and they all understand like you can't support Zionism, but it's almost like they don't understand why and what's happening in Israel right now.
They
And
just know it's the big current thing.
it's the
Many
big
of
current
them.
thing, so they're jumping on it, and it's like, oh, you know, Catholics can't be Zionists. But I'm talking everybody from Michael Matt to everybody that I've watched. They're none of them are saying things that are untrue. They're just not discussing the implications of it. And it really was the Romans 9-11 stuff that made me really understand, like, God is allowing them to gather back into this land. And then just thinking about like how they interpret the scriptures, their whole thing is just this carnal, like talking to Maudsley, man, listening to him break down some of the Christian Zionism stuff and this demonic reading of the scriptures and how they read the Old Testament and they're like, this is how this is going to be fulfilled. And it's so disgusting and evil. And it's really, really interesting because you know who first got me to think about this is really funny, was a like a leftist Catholic.
Ooh.
It was a guy who was a Protestant preacher who converted. He was on the journey home. His name's Jason something. Man, I can't remember his last name, but he started a podcast called like the Drunk Ex-Pastors, and I checked it out, and he didn't want to do the EWTN thing. So he was a pastor and he became Catholic, and he saw like everybody writing their conversion stories and going through all this stuff. And he goes, you know what? I don't want to be a professional Catholic. And he kind of just like, he wound up taking a very liberal view of Catholicism, but he had some pretty good insights early on before he winds up going there. And one of the things he talked about was
Jason Stellman.
Yes, Jason Stellman. And one of the things he talked about was how our foreign policy was shaped by Christian dispensationalists because he came from that world. Like he came from the Christian dispensationalist world, and he became Catholic. And he was talking about it on like one of the early episodes when I used to listen to them. And he was like, yeah, he's like, I don't know if most Catholics understand why we're so emphatic in our government about supporting Israel. And he got into that was like my first clue into, holy cow, this stuff is crazy. And that was years ago. It was like 7 years ago or something. And from there, conversations I've had with Rob and then listening to Scott Hahn. Like Scott Hahn made me an anti-Semite. I don't know what to tell you guys. And when I saw the Gavin Scott Hahn interview, I was just like, it kind of upset me because I know Scott Hahn sees the same stuff I do, and he doesn't speak out publicly about it. And it's like it's a bit of cowardice on his part, I think. Like he skirts around. It's like he knows he'll lose certain privileges if he actually starts talking about this stuff well. And I just think he thinks the same thing I do, because I know people in his orbit, and he says things behind the scenes, behind closed doors. And I just wonder why a guy that well-versed sees this obsession with Catholic Zionism, doesn't present it in a way like kind of like we do, where it's like, look, this is what's happening in salvation history. This is why you can't support Zionism. It's not just Zionism is a heresy and it's Christian dispensationalists and stuff. It's like, no, it's because they're trying to build the kingdom of Satan on earth. It was Maudsley who first gave me that phrase, and I've never, ever not had it sit with me. And I just been pondering it for a year and a half, just because I used to be one of the, Israel has a right to exist guys. And it's, man, do I have a different opinion on that stuff now. So
things have definitely changed the last 5-6 years.
I would say so. I think all of us, right? All of us have come around to a very different position on this stuff. And I know it gets tiresome sometimes, but like when you're seeing war break out in Iran, we kind of have to have the conversation. And there's always new people checking out the show. And they may not have heard it. So I know you guys get tired of me and my rants and me talking about this stuff. We'll try to do it a little differently each episode. Like this one, I think we played some clips and did it that way. But it's stuff that does need to be talked about, and it's stuff I want you guys to be able to go and explain. So sometimes you got to hear something 3 or 4 times before you can go and explain. I had to listen to the Romans 9 through 11 6-hour lecture series multiple times before I actually understood the subject matter and was able to relay it. So I try to bring it down to a level where people can understand it. My boat will be an escape pod.
We're going to mount some of my guns on that thing, and it's going to be awesome.
My boat's going to be an escape pod to get the hell off Long Island. Because if they ever did shut down the bridges of New York, I'd be screwed without that boat. Yeah, guys, pray for peace, man. Because like men have their own machinations, but God could do something. Another thing is like Our Lady hasn't appeared in a long time. And it's like she gave us all these warnings that I'm holding my son's hand back.
What do you mean? Now that the pandemic over, she appears every day at Medjugorje.
Yeah, right. Every one of her messages that are approved by the church were like, I'm holding my son's wrath back. This is a period of mercy. Do penance, pray. So those are the only things we actually can do about it. Like if this stuff is happening, it's happening. And all we can really do is keep our relationship right with God. So let's do that. We're going to go over and discuss Shia now. I have some interesting clips that were not posted on X that I thought were really interesting. And I also like, I really like identified with some of the way he was talking, even though I have whatever, we'll do it over there. It's some interesting stuff we'll get into with Shia. If you guys have seen the clips, I think you'll appreciate the insight. So if you guys are not members, join us over on Locals. That's where we do the stuff we can't do over here. You think you're using the boat to get off the island if they lock it down? I don't know. I'm gonna try. Could maybe get to Connecticut or Jersey. I don't know what I'll do once I'm there. I'll be on foot, but
I don't know, man. If the end of the world's happening, I think Jersey is the last place I would go.
You want to know what's the places that actually would be struck first are like North Dakota, Montana. Like that's where our missile silos are. That's where we keep our nukes. That's what it's like. It's not going to be New York, New Jersey.
Well,
if they're going for strategic
no.
bombings, it's going to be
New
the
York
Midwest.
and New Jersey are happening 100%.
Yeah, probably just for the symbolic value.
Not just symbolic economy.
Trade economy.
You know, the all the shipping that goes. Yeah, no, you're getting nuked.
Yeah.
First wave.
I hope I'm taken out in the blast, to be honest. I have no desire to like live through some marauding bands of rapists, and no way. Take me out in the blast. I don't want to live in the post-apocalyptic hellscape.
See, and where I'm completely the opposite. I have been preparing for that my whole life. I have an armory so I can arm my block and be the warlord, the local warlord of my area.
Well, if I can make it to Minnesota, that's where I'm going, but I better get some hard copy laminated maps because I have a feeling the internet will be down. I won't be able to use GPS to get there. All right, guys, we're going over to Locals. Join us.
What should I play as a...
Find an oldie but goodie.
Wow,
And come to Florida and fight the alligators and the pythons.
Let's see, but so many, whatever. Well, no, I'm not going to do that.
Akita, man. We should do Akita one night.
We've done Akita.
We should because you remember like back in the early days, everybody would do Fatima and Akita and they would go through all. It's been a while. We should do it.
Yeah, we could definitely.
I know we have, but it's been a long time. We got a whole new audience now and stuff. We should go through Akita because Akita's wild, man. Fire from the sky, bishops against bishop.
Yeah, we'll just play. Okay, we're leaving now.
We'll see you guys.